Hello, Namaskar. This is Firstpost and you're watching Vantage with me, Palki Sharma. India stuns the world with 8.2% growth, beating every expectation. How did it happen and what does it say about the Indian economy? We'll crunch the numbers for you tonight. But that's not the only big headline we have for you. Where is Imran Khan? As uncertainty grows in Pakistan, the United Nations has stepped in. We'll tell you what they've said. In the US, President Trump is using the shooting in Washington to target immigrants of all kinds. He's calling for reverse migration. Also in focus, the Asia Power Index now ranks India as a major power. Why the UAE is denying visas to Pakistanis, why India is considering privatizing the nuclear power sector, how warfare is moving underwater with submarine drones, how an Indian court has triggered a debate on social media posts, should they be pre-screened? Plus a report on the floods battering Sri Lanka and Southeast Asia and why Black Friday has lost its magic. All that and more lined up. The headlines first. Russian President Vladimir Putin to visit India on the 4th and 5th of December. He will be leading the Russian delegation on the 23rd India-Russia Annual Summit. During his visit, President Putin will hold talks with Prime Minister Narendra Modi. The Indian President will be hosting a state banquet in Putin's honor. This will be his first visit to India since December 2021. Setback for former Philippines President Rodrigo Duterte. The International Criminal Court has rejected his request to be released from detention. He is on trial for crimes against humanity during his war on drugs when he was the president of the Philippines. Duterte was detained in March and taken to the ICC prison. Tunisia accuses the European Parliament of interference after it passed a resolution calling for the release of the president's critics. This came after many opposition leaders in Tunisia were handed prison sentences up to 45 years. The president has called his opponents terrorists. Iran will boycott next week's Football World Cup final draw in Washington. This comes after the US denied visas to several members of its delegation. Tehran has denounced the decision, calling it a political move. Next year, the US is hosting the World Cup along with Canada and Mexico. And a NASA rover records evidence of lightning on Mars for the first time. Its microphone picked up sounds made by dust storms sweeping across the planet. This may have implications for future Mars missions. NASA's Perseverance rover has been roaming the red planet since 2021. What a way to start the weekend. India's GDP numbers are out and it looks like Diwali never ended. The Indian economy has beaten all expectations. It has cemented its status as the fastest growing major economy. That too in a world of chaos. You had the tariffs, you had wars, you had political instability, yet the Indian economy surged ahead. Let's look at the numbers first. These cover the second quarter of the financial year. The second quarter is July, August, September, these 3 months. India's GDP grew by 8.2% in this period, 8.2% growth across July, August and September. Now let's put that number in context. Our growth in the first quarter was 7.8%. And this time the expectation was lower. A poll of economists predicted 7.3% growth. The Reserve Bank of India, or the RBI, predicted 7% growth. And SBI, the State Bank of India, predicted 7.5%. But look at the actual rate, 8.2% growth. So why did all these experts underestimate? The answer lies in what happened in the month of August. That's when the government announced cuts in the GST. The goods and services tax, it was slashed. These cuts came into effect in late September, so economists thought that people would hold back, that they would delay their spending, and frankly, that sounds like a logical assumption. Then why did it go wrong? How did the Indian economy beat expectations? Let's look at the key drivers. Manufacturing was a key driver in the second quarter. Manufacturing grew by 9.1%. The services sector grew by 9.2%. And public utilities and defense grew by 9.7%. These sectors pushed India's growth beyond 8%. For any developing country, these are great numbers. But if you look at the context, it becomes even more impressive. The second quarter saw trade tensions with the United States of America. US President Donald Trump imposed 50% tariffs on Indian exports. This quarter saw the final phase of the war in Gaza and continued escalation in Ukraine. All these factors took a toll on the global economy. And it shows in the numbers too. Look at China. They grew by 4.8% in the same period. Malaysia grew by 5.2%, the Philippines by 5.5%, and Indonesia by 5%. Compare that to India, 8.2% growth. So clearly something went right for us. Broadly speaking, three things. Three things worked in India's favor. Number one, a rural revival. Agricultural output increased in this quarter, mostly thanks to a great monsoon season. This led to a rise in rural spending. And look at some of the indicators in this space. Tractor sales reached the highest level in 11 years. Two-wheeler sales were up by almost 52%. So clearly, rural spending has revived. And this is key for India. Almost 60% of our GDP comes from household spending. And 65% of all Indians live in rural areas. So if rural India spends, the GDP surges. That's the first factor. Factor number two, robust industrial footprint. Like I said, manufacturing grew by more than 9%. This also led to more Indian exports. Indian companies shipped more products to beat Trump's tariff deadline. Exports were up by 8.8% in the second quarter. In comparison, exports had contracted by 7% last year. So that's one factor that helped. And that brings us to the final factor, rising government spending. Again, this is a key part of our economy. 10% of the Indian GDP comes from government expenditure. In the second quarter, it was up by 31%. Compare that to last year, it was up by only 10%. Of course, when we talk about spending, one question does pop up. Where is this money coming from? Where are we spending from? Are we borrowing beyond our means? Well, the deficit data is also in. It covers 7 months from April to October 2025. In this time, April to October this year, India's deficit stood at 8.25 lakh crore rupees. That's around 92 billion US dollars. By this time last year, we had accumulated 46% of our total deficit. Let me explain this. Say our projected deficit was $100. Then we had reached $46 in 7 months. But this year, that number has widened from 46% to 52.6%. And this could be a worry for the government. Their target is to slash India's fiscal deficit. It was 4.8% of the GDP last year. The target is 4.4% this year. So a lot depends on the next 2 quarters. This ongoing one this quarter promises to be very interesting. We had lower GST rates, we had a long festival season, and we'll have a crucial RBI meeting next week. So chances are consumer spending will be very high. This robust growth also gives India some wiggle room abroad. We are negotiating a trade deal with the United States. Their economy, the US economy, is slowing down. Meanwhile, India is racing ahead, and that gives New Delhi some leverage in the talks. As always, consistency is key. India's goal is to become a developed nation by 2047, and for that, 8% must be a constant. You have to hit this 8% level every single year. And that's the next challenge for the Indian economy. Where is Imran Khan? This question is shaking up Pakistan right now. Social media is abuzz with posts. His party workers are gathering on the streets. His family wants proof of life. The government is denying all of it. And yet Islamabad is not letting go. In fact, things escalated so much that even the United Nations had to issue a statement. They are asking Islamabad to protect Imran Khan's rights. He's a former Prime Minister of Pakistan. He's currently in jail. He was last seen 23 days ago, and since then, there's been no sign of him. So what happened to Imran Khan? Why is Pakistan in a state of frenzy, and will it boil over into something bigger? We told you about this yesterday. It all started with one rumor, a random post on X, the social media platform. A post that claimed that Imran Khan had been killed. There was no proof or verification, just one post with a claim. But this is Pakistan we are talking about, a country where leaders do disappear, where leaders are routinely silenced. So the rumors spread like wildfire. Within minutes, thousands were retweeting it, reposting it. Then fake photos appeared. Imran Khan's party swung into action. It's a party called the PTI, the Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf. Their workers rushed to the Adiala jail in Rawalpindi. That's where Imran Khan is being kept. Crowds gathered outside the jail. Some tried to push through the barricades. And it wasn't just his party workers and supporters. His sisters were also present. And they all demanded one thing: show us that he is alive. The jail had to release a statement then. They said Imran Khan was healthy, but the gates remained shut and no proof was given. Like I said, he was last seen 23 days ago. On November 5th, that's when his sisters met him in jail, one of his sisters, and she carried a message from him. A message that she shared with the world, a message in which Imran Khan pointed at one man and he repeated one name 6 times, the name of General Asim Munir, the army chief of Pakistan. Imran Khan accused Asim Munir of running Pakistan like a dictator, of rewriting the constitution through brute force, of using the Asim law instead of the actual law, of blocking court hearings, of keeping him and his wife in quote-unquote every form of cruelty, and becoming, and I'm quoting again, the most tyrannical dictator in history. This is what Imran Khan said. This was his message. It was sharply critical of the regime in Pakistan, and it was hard-hitting. And after this message, there's been no communication from him, which is why his silence has triggered panic. His family is demanding proof of life. His son, Qasim Khan, posted a message on X. Let me quote from what he said. "My father has been under arrest for 845 days. For the past 6 weeks, he has been kept in solitary confinement in a death cell with zero transparency. His sisters have been denied every visit, even with clear orders, court orders allowing access. There have been no phone calls, no meetings, no proof of life. Me and my brother have had no contact with our father." So Imran Khan is being kept in a death row cell alone for 6 weeks. There have been no calls or meetings. Even court-ordered visitation is being blocked. The family does not know, the party does not know, the public does not know. Only the state knows what's his status, and the state is not talking. And now the United Nations has weighed in. It is asking Pakistan to uphold Imran Khan's rights. Meanwhile, his party is demanding 4 things. 1, proof of life. 2, immediate family access. 3, medical access. And 4, a public statement from the government. None of that has happened yet.
वो पुलिस को क्योंकि इन्होंने हुक्म दिया हुआ है कि इनको आपने रोकना भी है, और पुलिस जब मेरा ख्याल है उनको ये भी इजाजत दी हुई है कि आप जो मर्जी इनके साथ करें. ये पाकिस्तान में पहले कभी ऐसा नहीं हुआ. कभी औरतों के साथ उन्होंने, कभी किसी ने ऐसी बदतमीजी नहीं की, और कभी उन्होंने ऐसा जुल्म किसी पे भी नहीं हुआ था. ये पहली दफा है पाकिस्तान में कि ना वो बच्चा देख रहे हैं, ना बूढ़ा देख रहे हैं, और ना औरत देख रहे हैं या आदमी है. जो उनको इजाजत है कि जो भी उनको मिल जाए उसको आप वैसे ही मारें जैसे आपको कोई पूछने वाला नहीं है.
Now let's pause here for a minute. Imran Khan is not a saint. He has said terrible, reckless things about India. He's played dangerous political games. He has weaponized nationalism. He has attacked institutions. He has been part of Pakistan's troubled political culture. But here's the point. Even your worst critic deserves due process because that is what a democracy is built on. Look at India. Even Ajmal Kasab got a trial in India, even though he was a Pakistani terrorist behind one of the deadliest terror attacks in India. Even he got a trial. But then again, this is Pakistan we are talking about. They don't get democracy. They're doppelganging as a democracy. And now the facade is crumbling. A former prime minister is being held in a black hole without proof of life. So going back to the question we started with, where is Imran Khan? The fact is we don't know. And the fact that we don't know in a country of 240 million people with a government, a military, a judiciary and a media tells you everything you need to know about the state of Pakistan today.
Our troop is being trying to be resuscitated.
2 days back, a shooting incident shook Washington, D.C. 2 American soldiers were ambushed by an Afghan. He shot at them, and now one of those soldiers has died.
This is a really bad crime. Millions of Americans are praying for those heroes and their families, and I must unfortunately tell you that just seconds before I went on, right now, I heard that Sarah Beckstrom of West Virginia, one of the guardsmen that we're talking about, highly respected, young, magnificent person, started service in June of 2023, outstanding in every way. She's just passed away. She's no longer with us.
The shooter was identified as Rahmanullah Lakhanwal. He is a 29-year-old Afghan refugee. He worked with the CIA in Afghanistan. He served with the US Army during the war against the Taliban. Then when the Taliban came to power in Kabul, he fled to the United States. In 2024, he applied for asylum, and this year, he got it. 2 days ago, this man opened fire in Washington, D.C. President Donald Trump called it an act of terror. He has now launched a sweeping crackdown, one that goes far beyond America's security. Trump has ordered a quote-unquote permanent pause on immigration. He's calling for, and I'm quoting again, reverse migration, which means cancelling visas, cancelling green cards, and even revoking US citizenship. Trump is targeting what he calls third world countries. And which countries are on this list? Well, the president did not offer any details, but his order will affect nations which send the highest number of refugees to the US. Says who? Officials from his administration. This includes countries like Afghanistan, Somalia, Haiti, and the Sudan. And like I said, the crackdown is not limited to visas. Immigrants with green cards and even people with American citizenship are on the radar now. What's worse, the criteria are arbitrary. Trump says he wants, and I'm quoting again, he wants to strip green cards from non-assets. He has ordered checks on all green cards issued since 2021. He says immigrants who don't love America will be removed. Immigration officials have confirmed that a review is indeed underway, and the first set of people they're going after are Afghans. They're reassessing everyone who came to the United States since the fall of Kabul. That's more than 190,000 Afghans. They were admitted under the Biden administration. Most of them worked with the United States forces during the war. They helped the US in Afghanistan. So when the Taliban came to power, they were unsafe in Afghanistan. They applied for asylum or refugee status in the US. And now they face an uncertain future because everything is under review. Case files could be reopened, green card holders could face scrutiny, those waiting for a visa might struggle to get an interview. Because President Trump's order is sweeping and retrospective. Experts say it violates the US law, specifically the use of the term third world, because third world has no legal basis. It's a vague and outdated phrase. It's also racially charged. As problematic as it is, it's neither new nor surprising. This order comes from an old playbook. In his previous term as president, Trump ordered a travel ban. Immigrants from Muslim-majority nations were hit by that ban until the court struck it down. So now Trump is trying again. This time, he's trying it under the cover of national security. His administration is pushing for a permanent freeze on refugee resettlement, a denial of state benefits to non-citizens, and a review of all naturalized citizens. Naturalization is a legal process. It's when a non-national gains citizenship of a country. You come from another country, but you get the citizenship of the US. Someone who is not a citizen by birth, that is naturalization. Trump wants to review these cases too. He wants to reconsider citizenship of these people. Plus, he plans to challenge the concept of birthright citizenship. What does that mean? If you're born in a country, you get its citizenship automatically. That is birthright citizenship. The US president wants to challenge that too. This is his idea of reverse migration. He wants to use one shooting incident to carry out a nationwide purge. So this is not about seeking justice or putting the security of Americans first. This is about executing a political strategy and selling it as border control. Even if the courts strike it down, Trump's message is clear. Migrants are not welcome in America. Who's the biggest power in Asia? According to one index, it is the United States of America. Yes, the country that is not in Asia. That piece of absurdity aside, this index is quite interesting. It is prepared by an Australian think tank. It is called the Asia Power Index. Let's look at the top 5. As I said, the US comes first. They have a score of 80.5. China is second with a score of 73.7. India is third with a score of 40. Japan is fourth with 38.8. And Russia is fifth with a score of 32.1. I know you're curious about a few others. Pakistan is ranked 16th with a score of 14.5. North Korea is 17th and Bangladesh stands 20th on this list. These scores are calculated on the basis of certain attributes, and each attribute has weightage. For example, economic capacity makes up 17.5%. Military capability is also 17.5%. Cultural influence is 10%, while economic relationships are 15%. So the rating is pretty comprehensive, and it's not just based on who has more guns, it's based on other factors too. Now let's get to the big takeaways. There's some great news for India in this list. In 2023, India was ranked 4th on the same index. Last year, we overtook Japan to reach the 3rd place, and still India was ranked as a middle power. If you score more than 10 on this index, you are a middle power. If you score above 40, you are a major power. If you score above 70, you're a superpower. So until last year, India was categorized as a middle power, but this year, India is a major power. And a big reason for that is Operation Sindoor. Let me quote from this report. This is what it says. These gains were from improved expert appraisals of India's capability, which were likely influenced by India's performance in Operation Sindoor. That's more validation for India's success, and not the social media kind. That's the first takeaway. Takeaway number 2, American power is waning. Their score was 84.6 back in 2018, a full 10 points ahead of China. But look at the Americans now. Their score has fallen to 80.5, and China is less than 7 points behind them. It tells you how the regional balance is changing. The US announced a pivot to Asia in the last decade, but that pivot is not going well. Former President Joe Biden was bogged down in Ukraine. Current President Donald Trump is focused on the Caribbean. So American influence in Asia is waning. Which brings us to the third takeaway. China. China is not surging as expected. Yes, they're closing the gap with the United States, but that's because the US is slowing down, not because China is plowing on. Look at their numbers. China's score in 2018 was 74.5 on this index. This year, it is 73.7. Remember, this is not a reflection on China's military. It's a reflection on a lot of other factors. If you constantly harass your neighbors, you damage your relations. If you spy on others, you lose reputation. If you curb travel and trade, you lose reliability. Well, this is what happens to bullies. You may have the biggest stick in the room, but you don't have the matching influence. That is China's story. And India's challenge is a bit different. We have a growing military. We have warm historical ties in Asia. We have reliable policies. We have great soft power credentials. But are we using those attributes well? The Asia Power Index does not think so. Again, let me quote from what they've said. India's power in Asia continues to grow steadily but remains well below the potential of its resources. It's like the report card of that one child in school who has all the potential, who is friends with everyone, who is loved by teachers but is not topping the class. And frankly, we don't need a think tank to tell us that. India has always been destined for greater things. The question is, how do we achieve them? The military or the economy is not the issue for India. What we need to grow are relationships and links. And I'll give you some examples. A highway from India to Thailand was proposed in the year 2002. 23 years later, that highway is still not completed. Or look at the China-Philippines island dispute. Until 2023, India did not officially support Manila over Beijing. Or look at joint drills in the South China Sea. India first conducted them only in 2025, this year. So there's a lot of catching up to do. We have the resources, we have the power. Now it's a question of projecting it. Now let's talk about Pakistan and the UAE. They seem to be locked in a quiet standoff. A senior Pakistani official has made a big claim. He says the UAE has stopped issuing visas to Pakistani citizens. And he made that statement in front of the Senate, the Pakistani Senate. He said only diplomatic passport holders are getting approved. Although there is no formal ban, but the restrictions, it seems, are real. And the warning is serious. He says, and I'm quoting, the UAE and Saudi Arabia have stopped short of banning the Pakistani passport. And why is that? Because of Pakistanis being involved in criminal activity. That's what one of their senators has said. Another report says that some Pakistanis are traveling on short-term visas and then resorting to begging once they get there. So now Pakistani visa requests are being rejected. Travel agents are complaining. They say first-time visa approvals are down. Rejection rates are as high as 80%. Here's a report.
There's a problem between Pakistan and the UAE, a quiet but serious one. It began with a claim made by a top Pakistani official in Islamabad. Additional Interior Secretary Salman Chowdhury told a Senate committee this week, the UAE has stopped issuing visas to Pakistanis. According to him, only blue and diplomatic passport holders are being approved right now. Tourist and private visit visas? Those are barely getting through. Salman Chowdhury went even further. He warned that the UAE and Saudi Arabia had stopped short of banning the Pakistani passport altogether. If a ban is imposed, getting it removed will be difficult, he said. That warning was echoed by another Pakistani senator. Her name is Samina Mumtaz Zairi. She heads the Senate Committee on Human Rights. According to her, there's only one reason for the visa slowdown: criminal concerns. Some Pakistanis are traveling to the UAE and engaging in illegal activities. A private party claimed begging is a growing concern for Emirati authorities. Leading Pakistani publications have carried this story. Soon after it came out, Pakistani newspaper Dawn published another story. It quoted an unnamed diplomat at the UAE embassy in Pakistan. "There's no ban on visas for Pakistani citizens," he said. "Instead, visa processes are being eased." So why are so many Pakistanis complaining about visa denials? Travel agents say rejections have surged, especially for first-time and single-entry applicants. Some reports put rejection rates as high as 70 to 80%. Those with family ties in the UAE fare better, but for new applicants, it's a tough call and a clear pattern. Visa approvals are falling, and silence from officials won't solve it. The UAE and Pakistan share deep ties. The Gulf state is a major trade partner. It's also home to over 1 million Pakistani workers. They send billions back home each year. This isn't the first time there is an issue over visas. In 2024, similar complaints had come to light. Back then, Pakistani newspapers had highlighted the stakes. $5 billion in annual remittances from the UAE. An opinion piece had highlighted few more risks: falling foreign exchange reserves, as well as household incomes that rely on expatriate earnings. There are also long-term risks. Without job creation at home and limited access abroad, Pakistan faces a triple blow: rising poverty, social unrest, and more economic uncertainty. That's why this issue matters, because if left unresolved, it could hurt Pakistan's ailing economy, especially Pakistanis who depend on the UAE for jobs and income. For now, they are clearly struggling to get visas, and facts are being buried under statements and denials.
Our next story is about nuclear power. For 6 decades, this sector remained closed in India. The government was the only player, but now they're opening it so that private companies can participate. And this is a monumental policy shift. Prime Minister Narendra Modi announced it himself. Listen to this.
हम एक बहुत महत्वपूर्ण सेक्टर में भी कदम उठाने जा रहे हैं। हम न्यूक्लियर सेक्टर को भी ओपन करने की तरफ आगे बढ़ रहे हैं। इस सेक्टर में भी हम प्राइवेट सेक्टर की सशक्त भूमिका की नींव रखने जा रहे हैं। इससे स्मॉल मॉड्यूलर रिएक्टर, एडवांस रिएक्टर्स और न्यूक्लियर इनोवेशन में अवसर बनेंगे। यह रिफॉर्म हमारी एनर्जी सिक्योरिटी और टेक्नोलॉजिकल लीडरशिप को नई शक्ति देगा।
With this decision, India has entered a new club, a small list of countries which allow private companies in the nuclear sector. This list includes the US, the UK, Japan, and South Korea, among others. And now India is joining them. The winter session of Parliament begins next week. That's when the government plans to introduce a bill, the Atomic Energy Bill of 2025. When passed, it will formally open the door to private participation. But why is this a big deal? And why does India need nuclear power? Let me break it down for you. India still relies heavily on coal. Coal generates more than 70% of our electricity. It is cheap, but it pollutes. It releases carbon dioxide, sulfur, and other harmful gases. Now, India has committed to net zero emissions by 2070, and to get there, it needs cleaner alternatives. And solar and wind farms are expanding, but they depend on the weather. Nuclear power is different. This is electricity made by splitting atoms. This may sound like your science class from school, but bear with me. Atoms are tiny particles that make up everything around us. Every solid, liquid and gas is made of atoms, and inside each atom there is a core. This core is called the nucleus. When the nucleus is split, when there's a fission, it releases a large amount of heat. This heat boils water and produces steam. The steam spins a turbine. The turbine runs a generator. The generator produces electricity. This is power generated by nuclear fission. And this process creates steady power. It runs day and night. It can replace coal without sacrificing reliability, and it strengthens energy independence. Now, India already uses this technology, but we do it on a very small scale. It has at least 23 operational nuclear reactors, 23 reactors in the country. They're spread across India in Rajasthan, Maharashtra, Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, Gujarat, Uttar Pradesh. Together, they produce about 8.8 gigawatts of electricity. Now, this is just 2 to 3% of India's total electricity. And all these reactors are run by one entity, which is called the NPCIL, the Nuclear Power Corporation of India Limited. It has a full monopoly on nuclear power in the country thanks to a law that was passed in 1962. It's called the Atomic Energy Act. It allows only the central government and its companies to run nuclear plants in India. Private firms are not allowed. State governments are also not allowed. But now the centre wants to modernize this framework, and their urgency makes sense. You see, India wants 22 gigawatts of nuclear power by 2032 and 100 gigawatts by 2047. That is more than 10 times today's capacity. To meet these targets, you need speed, new technology and fresh investment, and that is where private companies come in. Any company registered in India can apply for a license, build a reactor and operate it. That's the idea. The government is also focusing on a new type of reactor, as the Prime Minister said, the small modular reactor. It's a factory-built, compact nuclear plant. It needs less land, less investment and less time to be deployed. Of course, this shift comes with its own set of challenges, like liability. Who pays if there's an accident? Right now, the law puts heavy responsibility on the operator, but the government is reviewing it. The second challenge is fuel supply. India has the uranium, but not enough for large expansion. It already imports from Kazakhstan. It will need more processing capacity for future reactors. The third challenge is public trust. Nuclear power is safe when managed well. An accident can shake confidence. So what we need is transparent regulation and strong safety standards. And if India gets this right, the gains would be massive. You get stable power, lower emissions, and self-reliance. So this is no longer about just electricity. It's about India's future as a clean energy leader. You must have heard about drones in the sky. Fast and small, they rule today's battlefields. But there's another kind that you may not have heard of. These are drones under the sea. They're called submarine drones. These are autonomous systems that operate in total darkness. They move where radars cannot reach. They're quiet enough to shadow manned submarines for days. No wonder countries are pouring billions into developing them, and defense firms are battling for dominance. This is not science fiction, it's happening as we speak. Our next report takes you inside this race under the sea.
You may have seen drones in the sky. Small, fast. They are everywhere on the battlefield, from Ukraine to the India-Pakistan conflict this year. But another kind of drone is rising. It moves where there is no light. It travels where radio signals fade. And it works in a world that humans find hardest to control. This is the age of underwater drones, and it could change modern warfare again. Underwater drones are autonomous systems that can travel long distances below the surface. They can monitor power cables. They can watch over telecom lines. They can scan for mines, and they can follow submarines that rarely come up. The idea is not new. During the Cold War, countries built early remote underwater vehicles for mine clearance and deep-sea tasks. They were slow, they were limited, but they showed that machines could operate beneath the surface. Today, the technology has advanced, and the world around it has changed too. Pipelines have been damaged, telecom cables have been cut, and nations now understand how exposed their underwater networks are. That vulnerability has triggered a wave of investment, and it is happening across continents. Countries are turning these drones from prototypes into frontline tools. In Europe, Germany has developed the Grey Shark. It is a mid-sized underwater drone that can reach 10 knots and travel more than 1,000 nautical miles. It can operate for 5.5 days. Its engineers built a hydrogen system because batteries were not enough. 2 European governments have already ordered it for $116 million. And Europe is not alone. The same urgency is visible across the Indo-Pacific. Australia is developing Ghost Shark. It is being built with the US firm Anduril. Canberra has committed $1.7 billion. The drone is designed for deep-water surveillance and anti-submarine missions. The United Kingdom is also expanding its underwater fleet. The Royal Navy wants uncrewed vehicles to guard pipelines and data cables. Across the Atlantic, the United States is scaling up too. It is investing in several autonomous undersea projects. And on the other side of the world, Russia is boosting its own capabilities. Last month, President Vladimir Putin said the nuclear-powered Poseidon drone had completed a major test. This growing demand has created a new defense industry. Traditional firms like BAE Systems, Boeing, and General Dynamics reportedly want to lead it. Newer companies like Anduril and Helsing say they can deliver faster and cheaper. Governments want drones that can stay at sea for weeks. They want sensors that can watch the seabed without being detected. And they want scale that manned submarines cannot provide. Underwater drones once lived in the background. Today, they are moving to the center of global defense, quietly, consistently, and deeper with every mission.
What does social media lack? In one word, filters. There's little room for nuance or balance. It's a place of extremes. You post first and you think later. But what if all your content was screened? What if you needed a panel's approval to post something? The Indian Supreme Court is thinking along these lines. It is hearing a petition filed by a popular podcaster. He's been accused of making vulgar comments on a show, so he's seeking protection from the court. The hearing soon turned to larger problems on social media, things like misinformation and anti-national content. On this issue, the judges had an idea. They've asked the government to prepare a draft mechanism. For what? To screen user content before it is uploaded. To screen content before it is uploaded. I know it sounds problematic. How can anyone decide what you post? Doesn't that violate your freedom of speech? Well, the judges have an answer for that. A, they say freedom of speech is not absolute. In India, it is a regulated right. And B, the judges say they want to sieve social media content, not throttle it. They want to filter it. Now, this is not a judgment or an order. At this point, it's just an observation, so it's not binding. Nonetheless, it's an interesting debate to dwell on. Why do the judges feel that such a measure is necessary? Let me quote from what they've said. If anti-national content is uploaded on social media, by the time the government notifies it and orders its takedown, a day or two may pass, during which period it would go viral and cause damage damage to, or unrest in society. Now, that's not a wrong assessment. We see it repeatedly with misinformation or hate speech. It takes time to spot and take down such posts, and by then, thousands of people have already seen them. Yet nobody ever talked about screening posts. The assumption was that most people would be responsible, that they would not post problematic stuff. Again, the judges differ. They say self-regulation may not work for social media content. They may have a point, but the question is this a good idea? First of all, the intention is good. Social media is the Wild West right now. It is becoming a den of deepfakes and misinformation. Instead of increasing regulation, most platforms are reducing it. So it's a problem. Having said that, screening is going to be very tough. And I'll give you two reasons why. Number one, the scale of the operation. There are nearly 700 million social media users in India. On YouTube, 2.6 million videos are uploaded every day. And let's not even go into WhatsApp groups and communities. How can we possibly screen all this content? The judges have pitched AI, artificial intelligence. On paper, a bot could screen a lot of content, but is that really where we want to go? AI bots are prone to hallucination and misinformation. You wouldn't trust them to fact-check news. Why would you trust them to screen your posts? That's the first problem. The second problem, is this not a slippery slope? For example, who decides what is appropriate? Who decides what is anti-national? Is that not too much power for bots or bureaucrats? If you look at other countries, there are two types of curbs. One is a complete ban. In countries like China, you can't use Facebook or Instagram. That's a complete ban. Or two, content moderation. You wait for people to post and then you ask the platforms to filter it out. If there is hate speech, if there's misinformation, the platform is supposed to take it out. The screening is done after posting, not before it. And India also does the same. Yes, the process is slow. Yes, the process is imperfect. But is it better than screening your posts and videos? Well, that's the debate the court should be having. Our next story is from Sri Lanka. The country has been hit by a cyclone. It's called Ditwa. The cyclone has caused relentless rain in the island country, which has triggered floods and landslides. Homes have been destroyed, entire communities have been cut off, and thousands of people have been moved to shelters. At least 56 people have died, many more are missing. India has responded fast to help its neighbor. India has launched Operation Sagar Bandhu. Relief supplies are being delivered and helicopters are being deployed for rescue operations. But this crisis is not limited to Sri Lanka. Indonesia, Thailand and Malaysia, they're all battling deadly floods. Our next report has more.
Sri Lanka is battling deadly floods. Days of intense rain linked to cyclone Ditwa have inundated towns, triggered landslides, and cut off entire communities. At least 56 people have been killed. Another 21 are missing. Parts of the island have been drenched by more than 300 millimeters of rain in just 24 hours. Sri Lankan authorities say nearly 3,000 homes have been damaged. Almost 44,000 people have been affected, and around 15,000 people are now in shelters. Rescue teams are stretched across the island. Helicopters are lifting families from rooftops. Navy boats are moving through flooded streets. Troops are clearing debris and reaching villages stranded by swollen rivers. Cyclone Ditwa began as a deep depression off Sri Lanka's coast. It intensified as it brushed past the island, bringing heavier rain and strong winds. The cyclone has severely disrupted daily life. Schools and final-year examinations have been suspended. Sri Lanka's parliament has paused its budget debate, and train services have been cancelled across the country. Sri Lanka has also reached out for assistance with the crisis. India has responded immediately. New Delhi has launched Operation Sagar Bandhu. Indian Navy ships INS Vikrant and INS Udaigiri have delivered the first consignment of relief materials. This includes 4.5 tons of dry rations, 2 tons of fresh food, and other essential supplies for affected families. Colombo has also requested air support. New Delhi has agreed to deploy helicopters from INS Vikrant to support rescue operations. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has also expressed condolences to the families who have lost loved ones. And he said, India stands ready to provide more assistance as the situation evolves. Sri Lanka's crisis comes as Southeast Asia faces its own wave of devastating floods. In Indonesia, the worst affected regions are on the island of Sumatra. Officials say at least 174 people have been killed by floods and landslides there. Nearly 80 more are still missing. Emergency teams say some areas remain unreachable, and the toll could rise further. Meanwhile, southern Thailand is also grappling with the aftermath. Floods have killed at least 145 people across multiple provinces. The southern city of Hat Yai has been one of the hardest hit. Malaysia, too, has reported fatalities from the devastating floods. Across Indonesia, Thailand, and Malaysia, more than 300 people have reportedly lost their lives in the past week. Millions have been affected, and authorities warn that further rain could slow recovery efforts. For now, the focus from Colombo to Sumatra to southern Thailand is the same. Rescue those still stranded, move people to safety, restore essential services, and wait for the waters to recede.
You all know what day it is today. It's Friday, or for some, Friday, the beginning of the weekend. But this is not just another Friday. Today is Black Friday, the day of sale, 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 bumper offers, cheap goods, and spending the salary that just got credited. There was a time when the world waited for Black Friday sales. They bunked outside malls, they put things in their carts, all in the anticipation of great offers. But is it really a good deal anymore? Has Black Friday lost its significance today? Let's look at its story. The term Black Friday was born in 1869. Surprisingly, it started on Wall Street. Two speculators tried to corner the gold market. It backfired spectacularly, prices tanked, the economy panicked, and the press named the day Black Friday. Fast forward to the 1950s and retailers took over. Thanksgiving ended, people hit the streets, they raided malls and shops, and so the term Black Friday stuck. It was meant to depict the shopping frenzy. And there was a time when Black Friday was the king of discounts. One day, 24 hours of steal deals, you blink and you miss. Look at the numbers. In 2010, Black Friday accounted for 7 to 8% of the total annual sales in the United States. Buyers spent $11.4 billion at retail stores and malls. So this one day dominated the sales. But then came Amazon. It started the Prime Day in July. That became a big hit. And then every major retailer scrambled with their own counter sales, and suddenly there were deals and sales throughout the year. Consumers realized they didn't have to wait for November anymore. That blender you want, it will go on sale in July and August and whenever Amazon feels like it. This is how Black Friday became just one more sale in a world full of sales. Then came the Wuhan virus pandemic. The world was locked indoors. Online shopping was not just convenient, it was a survival tool. Between 2020 and 2023, Black Friday in-store traffic fell off a cliff. Meanwhile, online spending skyrocketed, and that shift from stores to online never fully reversed. Now there's a sale every week. Spring sale, end of season sale, festival sale, monsoon sale, back to school sale, birthday sale, Amazon forgot to tell you sale. We live inside a perpetual discount machine. Marketers call this promotion fatigue. And it's real, this promotion fatigue. When prices drop constantly, consumers stop responding. A sale only feels special when it's rare. When everything is discounted, nothing feels discounted. And what even is the discount? 98% of these products can be found at the same price. If you checked 6 months before, it could even be cheaper. Because, and you already know it, 30% of Black Friday deals are artificially inflated. Prices are hiked to make the discounts appear bigger. And the worst hit items are tech accessories. Plus, limited stocks are not really limited, it's a lie. Bundles are disguised as deals, and they promise free shipping that was free anyway. Also, here's the economic reality. Retailers are dealing with a multitude of things right now. Inflation, tariffs, shipping costs, growing labor costs, razor-thin margins. They simply cannot afford to offer you 60 to 70% real discounts anymore, especially not across the board. So here's what they do. They use selective discounting. A few headline-grabbing deals, a TV, a laptop, a gaming console, and everything else stays close to the full price. Those massive store-wide everything must go discounts, well, they are fantasies now. So is Black Friday still relevant? Believe it or not, it has not died. It still brings in billions of dollars. The traffic is huge. Online sales break records every year. Retailers still depend on it to kick off the holiday season. But the magic has faded, eclipsed by apps and algorithms. So the deals haven't disappeared. The novelty has. It's been a year of crashes so far. Google services have crashed, Amazon services have crashed, X and Meta have crashed. So Netflix thought, why should I be left behind? This week, the streaming platform dropped one of its most popular series, Season 5 of Stranger Things, and on cue, Netflix crashed. Thousands of users reported a frozen screen. Take a look at the meme fest that followed. Last week, we unveiled our new series, a special 5-part show called The Dictator. A lot of you enjoyed the first episode on Iraqi leader Saddam Hussein, and tomorrow we are bringing you the second one. This is a man who was called the Mad Dog of the Middle East. He ruled his country for 40 years before being ousted and murdered on the streets. This is the story of Libya's Muammar Gaddafi. Catch it exclusively on Firstpost's YouTube channel on Saturday, 8 p.m. IST. And now it's time for Vantage Shots, images that tell the story. Pope Leo struggles to unveil a plaque commemorating his visit to Turkey. An entire city made of gingerbread pops up in London ahead of Christmas, and majestically adorned pink elephants march through Bangkok to honor the late Thai Queen Mother. Finally, we're taking you back in history. On this day in 1943, Franklin D. Roosevelt, Winston Churchill and Joseph Stalin met in Tehran. This was to plan how to win World War II and shape the post-war peace. Tehran was chosen because it was a crucial supply route for the Allies to reach the Soviet Union. We're leaving you on that note. Thank you for watching. Have a good weekend.
By the three greatest nations fighting Germany to reach common ground and understanding, to act as allies should, to deliver the most telling blows at the enemy in the most vital places at the right time. These pictures stand for the hope that we all feel that doubt and suspicion on which tragedy and bloodshed feed should be removed once for all. The man in the street does not expect to know what is said in the secret consultations of his...
I wore the crown of a revolutionary. I promised to lift my nation. I claimed to fight imperialism. I became the very thing I warned against. I funded militias across continents. I feared my own shadow. Some called me the King of Kings. History calls me something else. The dictator. Who am I?